So teen drug abuse is one of the most tragic things that affect young people, um, especially when you think of the fact that when people are abusing drugs at such a young age, they're still in a place where they're developing and becoming adults, their bodies are still developing, their brains are still developing, so the use of drugs can influence that, impact that in a negative way. In addition to that, when students are doing drugs, when kids are doing drugs, it shuts a lot of doors in terms of what they're able to do, what they're not able to do in the future. So many students end up in prison because of possession charges, their grades are impacted, they end up having to do things like go to continuation school if they decide that they want to do schooling at all. So it's a big issue.
So when we talk about teen drug problems, I think that it's, or drug abuse, I think it's a very, very serious problem, especially since I've started working in education. I've seen, especially with younger kids, 9th and 10th graders, they're not educated about what they're doing. They're just succumbing to peer pressure. And I get especially concerned when I see the use of prescription drugs, which are very strong, which are chemically altered drugs, which have serious side effects on your health, on all your organs, which are extremely addictive. And I start seeing young kids, 9th and 10th grade, taking pills every morning, and that frightens me. And I think you're throwing your life away. And I think that if you need to spend your time taking drugs when you're in school or at work, then there's something emotionally going wrong with you that you need to address, because that's not the solution. And as an educator, I'm scared about what our youth are doing. So I hope that helps. Thanks.
Teenage drug use and drug abuse, but I can see how a lot of people would go into drugs, or they would use drugs as an escape from the reality. Obviously there are a lot of negative results of drug abuse. There's all kinds of impacts on someone's social life, on someone's family life, on someone's performance in their job or in school. And so I understand that it is a big problem. It's something that needs to get addressed. But I think a lot of people turn to drugs because they have other issues that they're facing. And so ultimately, my opinion is that no one should be doing drugs, or no one should be abusing drugs. But there are some certain circumstances that could lead people to do that.
My opinion on teen drug abuse, that it's a very bad thing and that it should come to an end, because if it doesn't come to an end, then it's going to develop over time and it's going to get worse and worse. And so basically I think the best way to end it is to discuss more about it, and yeah, that's about it.
I think all drug abuse is bad, but definitely when we're talking about drug abuse involving teens, I think it's more important that those teens get support immediately, just because they're younger and they have an opportunity to really make a positive change in their lives before they make too many more mistakes. I think it's the same reason that pretty much causes anyone to do drugs, and I think drugs are a form of escape. And I think people escape for many reasons. It could be stress, it could be depression, it could be boredom sometimes, it could be also negative, influences from peers and, other people that that people may choose to surround themselves with. But I think ultimately drug use is a form of escape. First, what I see is when a student or a teenager is using drugs is a fall in their academics. I definitely see their grades get lower, a lot of Fs, things like that. I also see a lot of changes in mood. Sometimes a lot of hyperactivity sometimes, and sometimes the opposite, a lot of isolation and depression and things like that. I think a kid who chooses to take drugs not necessarily. I mean, sometimes people experiment. It doesn't really have to do with emotions, and more, I believe, with curiosity. But I think when people are abusing drugs, I think there is some emotional component to that. And I think something is happening to that person emotionally that's causing them to make that choice of using drugs. I think people who are healthy emotionally and who are confident and self-reliant generally do not use drugs. Unfortunately, I believe there's a lot of opportunities. I mean, with marijuana, I think it's, especially this day and age, due to its availability, I think that's very easy for someone to get. I mean, they just need to know someone who's 18 or older has a prescription. And other drugs, though, even when I was back in school, if you really wanted to get something, you would be able to find it. And then unfortunately, there's too many opportunities. I do believe that most of them get them from someone they know at school, or whether it's at school or right outside of school, I think they get it from someone that they know from at school.